Alright, back to the grind and invasions in Elden Ring, post Shadow of the Erdtree, post first patch of Shadow of the Erdtree DLC. We are here, live, with a Death Sorcery build. That's right, we're crazy. They said you couldn't use INT, they said you couldn't use Faith. We said, we'll use both. See, that's the one-shot, baby. We have a couple of incantations here, but mostly we have the new Death Sorceries and a couple other new things from the DLC Invasion Over, including what might be the strongest thing on the build, which is the Impenetrable Thorns, and I'm gonna probably spam that a ton in Invasions. I was doing a few duels earlier. I'll find this clip later and show it to you. I killed a guy with them, dealt about 1700. It seemed fair. 4th of July, people have fucking families and shit. What is this? Play video games by yourself in a dark basement with no one around you. That was the easiest invasion of my life. Come into the dark, cavernous pits of thought and ridiculous brews. Oh! That's right, everybody. Today we have a Death Sorcerer build. This build has 52 INT, so I can use the Azure Staff in case I need it as a backup, as well as 26 Faith, so that I can use all of the new Death Sorceries from the DLC. And I organize these spells in such a way that we have kind of an interesting kit. It's not focused on Impenetrable Thorns, but Impenetrable Thorns really is the sauce that makes the steak delicious. And you might be saying, well, if you have a good steak, why do you need sauce? Just forget all that and pay attention to the way that these spells can combo together and roll catch. We specifically made the build in order of spells so that we can force the opponent to roll. Your ass cancer versus mine, prepare to die. Then combine into other roll catching options and even go back to the first Orb of Mesmere, reposition with Miriam's Vanishing, and put it all together in a quite a interesting mix of INT and Faith tools. Ooh! We gave him the whole fucking combo platter, baby! Because realistically, I'm still in the testing phase of many of the PvP things in the DLC, I have been focusing on exploring a lot of the new sorceries and incantations, and let me tell you, some of them are quite a doozy. Today we are using the omnicatalyst, Staff of the Great Beyond. This thing can cast incantations or sorceries, and so out of all of the mage and casting support in the DLC and the different items we have, I think that this one might be the most useful. Before on Faith INT builds, casters would both have to consider the spells that they were scrolling through, as well as the catalyst that they're implementing. This wasn't that difficult, but it did take a little bit more balancing. With this staff, your muscle memory for pressing R1 or L1 or whichever hand you have it in won't change depending on which spell combos you're using, so you can flip through your spells, combine different things, and create a lot of interesting combinations and pressure using your different options. So cheers to those who love INT Faith. We have all of the new Death Sorceries on this build. We actually started the build because we wanted to try the Big Booger, Massive Putrescence. It's a fairly functional spell. It's nothing like Cannon of Haima though, because the hit is delayed, and it actually has a bug where if it hits a wall or a ceiling or even a player directly, the ground effect doesn't happen, so you have to be careful to aim this. It has a massive area of effect though, and it does build up frost, but at the end of the day, we didn't end up using this one as much as we would have liked, and we had to often go to our extremely toxic backup, Impenetrable Thorns. Yes, my friends, we do have a few problematic things left in the DLC. This is not only the best spell from the DLC for PvP, it may be the most broken thing still left in PvP, and it fits perfectly on this build. It's a sorcery, you have enough faith to cast it, voila, we have some one-shots. This thing has massive range, it has unfair levels of tracking, And the way that it works is if your opponent is standing not directly in front of you, but maybe a couple of feet away, the distance of a greatsword or a straight sword hit, this thing will combine all of its hitboxes overlapping on top of each other and deal massive bleed out your opponent, stack those bleed hits, and kill your opponent in one shot. It's extremely potent and extremely silly, and as much as this is a useful tool for invaders, it's probably much more frightening in a gank and definitely needs a nerf. If you want to try this out, have fun with it while it still exists in the game. I'm expecting that they will change the way that the damage tick, the bleed buildup work on the next patch. The other DLC staff, the one that scales with Arcane, actually is better at casting this thing because it deals more bleed buildup on the thorns when you cast it. But because we wanted to try some of the different Int Faith spells and we didn't want to spread the stats between Int Faith and Arcane, we wanted to try the new Funky Catalyst. We chose to go with this build instead, and as you can see from many of the clips, having Arcane to deal extra bleed buildup is really not necessary to make this a very potent one-shot. Buyer beware though, if you're spamming this too much at close range, you will whiff. I want my one-shot! I want my one-shot! Man, that helmet is so fucking dumb. The hitbox doesn't happen immediately in front of your feet. You need a little space for it to activate. So in other words, this spell is a huge gamble and it might be worth it. You might instantly win an invasion or kill a phantom, but it may just result in you getting blundered and killed immediately. So try to space this properly, try to use it at the right times, depending on the connection, your distance, where your opponent ends up after they're attacking. You may not hit with it and get killed. Shouldn't be able to fill a room with all of these hitboxes and instantaneously just kill a person. That's a silly mechanic. But we're moving on from the extremely ugly to the good. Gravitational Missile. I think this is actually a very balanced spell. You can throw it at the ground and create the hitbox right in front of you and lead to some funny gravity kills. You can create a hitbox right in front of you by throwing it at the ground, leading to a nearly instantaneous AoE, or you can throw it out in front of you where if it hits the ground it may explode, and if you charge it, it's like a pulsating time bomb that creates a gravity effect, and when it explodes, creates knockback for decent damage. This spell reminds me of something like Gavel of Haima, where it's an excellent int AoE, and it doesn't have overtuned damage. So even though you can create an explosion right in front of you, I don't believe that that's too fast. I don't believe it's too good, and I think that it's all around just a balanced and highly useful spell. It has a great amount of utility in invasions because of its ability to knock people back. It is good at range and up close, and it can create really effective area denial. So if you look at this spell and compare it to a lot of the other spells in the DLC, I would say that this is absolutely one of the more balanced, fun, and unique things that they added, and is useful or powerful for int builds without being too broken. Are you trying to go off the edge, brother? If you combine this thing with the first part of the Shadow Keep right after the main gate grace and invade, you can get tons of goofy gravity kills all over the place, whether you are tempting people to roll by using this, using it to knock people off the edge, or just making them panic in general. It's a really funny spell to use in this area. And it's also a very excellent spell to use after Miriam's Vanishing. It's a very good spell to precede roll-catching spells like Carrion Piercer or AoE spells, and it works really, really effectively with a few of the spells on this build, and I sequenced them in such an order that I would be able to Miriam's Vanishing and pretty quickly get into one of either Gravitational Missile or the next really useful spell that I found on the build, probably the best pure death sorcery in the DLC, and that is Vortex of Putrescence. Vortex of Putrescence is a pretty interesting AoE. You spin your staff and a massive glob of snot flies out around you in a circle. It's annoying to kill the boss that gives you this, but it's a very excellent spell to use in combination with other spells. It can catch people rolling away from you. If you force them to roll in, use the Vortex of Putrescence, they start to roll away. You can roll catch and use that to combo into other spells. It doesn't deal massive damage, but it's an effective way to get people off you, and it has decent range in a wide area around you, which gives you a lot of use cases and effective uses that have synergy with other spells on this particular kit. Definitely a winner, definitely something that I would recommend if you want to use a build that implements some of the new spells from the DLC. I think Vortex of Putrescence is a decent new Int Faith Death Sorcery that can complement a lot of different playstyles with spells. Last thing I wanted to mention on this build is Pest Thread Spears. I do not think Pest Thread Spears is as good at finishing as regular Pest Threads, but Pest Thread Spears is very, very good when people are rolling away from you, and it deals a really, really good amount of damage on this catalyst. So if they're hit by 2 spears, caught rolling away or trying to heal, you can actually deal a ton of damage, and this is an excellent one to finish out your chain of spells and other combos. Thanks for sticking around. I hope you guys are enjoying the new DLC. There's so much stuff to experiment with, so many things to play with, and the builds and brews are literally cascading from my mind. So give me a few weeks to catch up here. I've got a lot of things to bring your way, new things you haven't seen, twists on old builds, and soon I'll begin combining all of the DLC and base game stuff together in my builds and creating unique and powerful, quote, end game PvP builds. That's all to come, so like and subscribe if you like this video, and stick around for more casting madness. That's so good. That might be the best spell in the DLC! We'll see. You need to play with it more. You need to play with it more. But you can, like, free aim it, see? Like, give it a little free aim. Oh, that's too good! That's not balanced. That is not balanced. Somebody... Holy shit. Not balanced. At all!